Doyle, were you able to calculate when Dealey goes offline, when you take Dealey offline and you substituted solar and wind for that, what the water gain will be on that and sort of monetize it and say, because drought is a real thing in San Antonio, right?
That's a great point. So I couldn't tell you the number, but I will tell you that as we went to the public and made our case, because, this wasn't easy, like a lot of cities in Texas, not a lot, but, the inner core is blue and the suburbs are deep red. So we had to talk to a lot of people and say, this is the path to go. So part of what we did was I showed 2 lines out to 2035, and I said, this is the line, the first line is the line that if just a modicum of EPA regulations come into play, here's what the rates are going to be. The second line, which is much lower, is if we begin to lower our risk by reducing the amounts of unscrubbed coal and going heavy into renewables. So we made that overall case. However, specifically, we said here are the benefits of solar as an example. One is in Texas, it's a natural. When I got here, we only had carved out 50 megawatts of solar out to 2020. To me, it seemed a natural here. More sunlight with dual axis panels, and we're far enough away from the Gulf that we don't get too much cloud cover. It just seemed like a natural. Secondly, you can install them close to load centers, so it brings jobs. Thirdly, no air pollutants. And then to your point, we also said less use of water, which is, and we made that case 3 years ago, and it's even more valuable today. So we did put that into our modeling to make the case to the public. So thanks for bringing it up. It couldn't be more important that these technologies really use a lot less water. And even integrated gasification combined cycle uses a lot less water compared to coal, even probably ultra supercritical coal. But thanks for making that point. So I don't have the exact number, but we did put that in our modeling and made the case to the public. And surprisingly, to some who might be skeptical for ideological reasons, that point was probably most compelling. They got that.
First, Doyle, I just want to say thank you for your excellent remarks, which were extremely thought-provoking, and also, this is just the willingness of folks like you to come to this conference is what makes this conference so excellent, so thank you. My question, I want to ask about a few different tensions I saw in your talk. You mentioned early on that customers would be willing to pay for innovations in electricity, but you also mentioned that people think about managing their energy consumption about 6 seconds a year, and that people are very concerned about price. So I'm just wondering if you could talk about what you think those innovations in electricity are that people are going to be willing to pay for.
Well, that's a great point. So at the risk of generalizing and or stereotyping, I'm going to take a shot at it. So generally, I think there are almost roughly 4 broad classes of customers. One are kind of the millennials. So that anything new and shiny is fun. I can turn my lights on and off while I'm at the Rathskeller or a local bar or something. Here's what I can do. The second class, I think, are people that are generally higher income, that I'll pay a higher price if I know you're backing down a hydrocarbon-based plant somewhere. I want to do good, and I can afford it. The next class is, I think, which we have a lot, perhaps the most in San Antonio, I don't pay attention, I don't care. If you tell me my rates are going to be lower, I'm in. You take care of it for me. And for that class, when we install home area networks, we actually do the programming for them. And they see the bills are lower, and they're good to go. And then the fourth class, I call almost sort of the survivalists. They're like, I live out in a ranch somewhere, don't want to see a meter reader, leave me alone. Big brother, stay away, don't want to see anybody. So I think with our approach, there's something in it for everybody. Really, so if it's automated meters with home area networks, you can, if you got a home area network, you can program it yourself. We can we don't advertise it, but the technology is just so that we can make the interaction one way, not two way. So it just goes out. You get nothing back from us, the signals. And you don't have a meter reader showing up. et cetera. Of course, prices are lower. All this stuff does allow you to reduce demand, so you're backing down fossil plants. And it's also new and shiny. And going to get new and shinier when we are able to merge with the Nests of the world and the Googles of the world, the Apple TVs. You know, there's going to be some point very soon, you know, where you're going to be looking at your big screen TV and you're going to have a microchip in there that talks to your meter, talks to your dryer, your electric vehicle, and you're probably going to use that TV remote to hit a toggle, and up on your screen comes a pie chart showing the usage in the house, showing what lights are on in every room, and you can, from your remote control, say, I want my electric vehicle to start at after 2 a.m. discharging within a 2-hour period when prices are lowest. I mean, that's the near future. So I think these technologies are not mutually exclusive. There's something in it for everybody. And if you can keep rates low, and again, it goes back to monetizing, that's part of how you can do it, or stopping the stranded investment erosion. But if you can keep it with a pretty good bandwidth of rates, you're going to have adopters for every category, and it makes a fairly good case. And so, that's what we're finding.
Thank you, Doyle. This was really, really interesting. I would like to follow up on the customer relationship you described. You said you're very protective of your customers. You'd like to not have any middlemen step in between you and them. So it makes intuitive sense for me to want to work with Nest, except that Nest now is part of Google. And of course, Google is, one of the obvious competitors on the horizon who might be interested in that very relationship, as would be Verizon that you mentioned. So could you talk a little more about how you perceive these potential competitors, whether there's a way to turn this into a collaborative relationship, whether you think it's really more about staking your ground and trying to fend them off, or whether there's more than a net zero-sum game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to give you the example of Nest, there's a way to work together. We are doing that right now. The Nest computer is totally simpatico with our home area network. In fact, it enhances it. So there's some that are almost additive. And of course, those we're working with. We really haven't found really too many that are just flat out mutually exclusive. You could say that some of the sort of the securities type systems could be sort of duplicitous or something, but they're not a problem yet. And generally, the other advantage munis have is we have good branding. It's almost like a sort of a weird sort of dysfunctional relationship. Sometimes customers hate us, but they don't want anybody else. Can't figure it out. So I think when we look at our surveys, they're very loyal. We have a pretty good name brand. Even when periods when we disappoint them or don't live up to generally our expectations with them, they're angry, but they still trust us. It takes a lot to break that sort of bond of trust. It takes a long time to build it, but also a long time to break it. So we're very protective of that, and we think that's our sort of advantage. So we really haven't found the entity yet that we can't have some overlap in common ground and work together. Because don't forget, our premise is we are not sort of resisting the concept. We're not resisting our customers using less of our product. So if you start with that premise, there are a lot of other ways you can be collaborative, because we don't put that sort of stake in the ground. And part of it is that we're vertically integrated. So again, we got a wholesale level, a distribution level, transmission level, a whole lot of levels to extract value in that chain. And then secondly, we think we're on a pretty good path of monetizing. So we're not as threatened as some might be.